Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Growing Your Business Through Social Media webinar. My name is Brent Mondu, and I'm the CEO of Envision It Interactive. And before I get started, I'm going to make sure that everyone can hear me okay. If you see the hand icon to lift your hand, if you can hear me okay, I'd like you to click it. Excellent. All right. Well, today I'm going to talk about growing your business through social media. I'm going to go through, I've got a diverse audience from beginner to expert, so I will be going through a high level and then get into some of the specific details as we go through this webinar. If at any point you have questions, feel free to ask them. I have a team here that will be collecting these questions and assembling them, and at the end I'll take the time to answer some of these questions. The webinar will be approximately 1 hour. 45 minutes of it will be me going through the webinar I prepared for you guys today. And the last 15 minutes I'll take to answer any questions that you guys have. For those of you who are experienced with Twitter, feel free to use the hashtag #GrowSocial to communicate with us as well, or to talk amongst yourself during the webinar. For those of you who aren't, don't worry about it. That's why you're here today. So I'd like to take the moment to thank the Ottawa Chamber of Commerce for inviting me to do this webinar, and I sincerely hope that it's extremely useful for all of you, everyone that's attending this webinar, and that you take away a lot of gems that will help you in your ongoing social media efforts. Don't worry about taking notes during this webinar, as the Ottawa Chamber of Commerce will be making this entire presentation available online for you after to view at your leisure. So don't feel the need to take notes. I'd rather you focus on what I say and gain as much as possible during this webinar. Before I get started, I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and I'm going to display the results. The first question I'd like to ask is, do you believe social media has helped your business to grow? And so I'm interested to learn from you guys how much experience each of you have had throughout it. And so it's very important for me to understand my audience so that I can speak to you in that manner. So I'll close the poll in a couple of seconds so that everyone can see it. I'm getting the votes in now. So. All right, I'm going to close that poll up, and I'll show you guys the results. All right, so the results are that 60% of you believe that yes, it is helping you, 23% believe it is not, and 17% just do not know. Okay, and then the next question I'd like to ask you is, which of the following, for the ones that have answered yes or you're not sure, which of the following social media channels have helped your company to grow? Now this one's very interesting because everyone seems to have a different way and a different social media channel that benefits their organization. It doesn't necessarily mean that one channel is better than another. It might mean that they've found a way to communicate with their clients, their leads and whatnot, and one of those channels has worked better for them over time, and so they've stuck with what works. Doesn't mean it's necessarily the best approach. I'll talk a little bit about that later as well, but of course you do stick to what's working, but don't be afraid of new channels and new avenues. As you know, technology continues to evolve faster than ever. The social media channels you use today aren't going to be the same channels that you use in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years. They're going to continue to evolve. So I'm going to close that poll up now, and I'm going to share the results with you. They're fairly consistent with what I've seen over the long time. Facebook and LinkedIn are very, very powerful, with Twitter slightly behind it. When I've done similar educational webinars on the other end of the world, I've actually seen the opposite, Twitter being the leader in that. So just an interesting tidbit. some of these things tend to be geographical. So for companies that have an international audience, closing off one of those channels could drastically impact your ability to, to get the maximum exposure. Okay, so let's get started. What is social media? Social media is essentially marketing. At the end of the day, that's really all it is. But then why is it given a different name? Why social media? Simply put, it has to be done from a different angle. You have to approach it with a different angle. If you take the traditional marketing approach in the world, sell, 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 buy our product, it's on sale, here's the benefits, here's why we want you to buy it. That approach is not going to work on social media channels. You'll essentially get ignored. You'll have people that'll block your channels. And so it's very, very important to take a different approach. And the approach is one that is very interactive and one that is engaging with your clients. Sort of like you don't talk to your clients, you talk with your clients. You listen to them, you engage with them, you speak with them. And by doing so, you gain a lot more value out of it as well than just sales. You learn a lot about your product, about why your customers use them, their likes and dislikes. You can actually improve your products. You can actually sell the key components and the key reasons why your customers are choosing your products. It actually helps you to create your pitch. You learn more about your products because you're too close to your own products or services. When you look at it from the way your customers look at it, you can learn so much more. And the reason social media is different is because a lot of the media is generated by consumers. So an example of this quickly is you send out 1,000 flyers to homes. These 1,000 flyers go out to homes. You have 1,000 opportunities to make a sale. Maybe 2,000 if they all share that. But in social media, if you share this to 1,000 fans and they share it to their fans, or some of them share it to their fans, first of all, they all see it. But then all of their friends, and on Facebook the average is 180 friends per person, have the opportunity to see it. Obviously, they're not all going to see it. But if Brent Mondu communicates about something and has 5 friends like this, that's an average of another potential of another additional 1,000 out of 5 people that could be exposed to it, and not just once, but on an ongoing basis. So you stay fresh in their mind. Why use social media? Simply put, the growth, the viral growth that we've seen over the last couple of years has been breathtaking, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. And the reason for this is because people are busy. People don't have a lot of time. They want to stay connected. They want to stay up to date. So they use it not just for business, but also for leisure and pleasure during their off time to keep up to date with family and friends. And they trust the input and want to know what's going on in their family and friends and professional colleagues' lives. And so this viral growth that's occurring is not just because social media is a fad and whatnot. It's because it actually caters perfectly to human psychology and to humans' desire to be connected. More importantly, the power of word of mouth. If Brent goes to you today and you don't know Brent and he says, you should buy this product, you might be likely to consider it coming from Brent. If an advertisement's in a paper and you read it, you know they're biased. But if your friend comes to you and says, you should really try this product because I love it, it's saving me so much time every day, it's going to increase the likelihood of someone else purchasing it. Word of mouth still is the most trusted form of marketing. And it results in a lot less resistance during the sales process because you have someone on your side speaking for the benefits. And so social media creates that when people who don't have to talk about your products or services or don't have to share them are doing so on their own time. It's also inexpensive, but not free. Most webinars you go to will put a line item in here that say it's free. I won't say that because it's not true. You do have to invest time and money into your staff, into your organization, into planning, into putting together a plan that will work for you. If you go about it without a formal plan, you might be lucky. You might get some results from it. You might not even know if you're getting results from it or not, but you might feel you are. And I have a feeling a lot of people from the conversations I've had over the last several years feel exactly that way. I know it works, but I don't know how much. And so they haven't put a plan together. They haven't executed a plan. And it's very, very important to do so. You need to invest in this because it's not going away. And I'm not saying invest in products and services and solutions and whatnot, but invest in your own company and make sure that you do that. That's the first and foremost, most important step. After that, if there are products or services that will help you get to the next level, fine, that's great, but you need your core plan in place first. Social media gives you the ability to adapt. Now, when I say the ability to adapt, I mean, consider this. You send out an advertisement, and it gets a whole bunch of flack. It gets criticized, or there's a spelling mistake, or there's something questionable in it. Will you? If it's not that bad, like not controversial, you may not even know about it, but it may send a bad message, or you just can't figure that out. But when you send something out on a social media channel, you know almost right away whether it's working or not if you've got some sort of measurematics in there. And you can adapt to that. You can adapt to reactions. You can answer to customer complaints and show everyone else, leads and customers, that you care deeply about the products and services that you offer. It's huge. It really makes an enormous difference. Finally, it's a friend with benefits. And by friend with benefits, I mean it helps in a lot of other ways, such as search engine optimization. If you're sharing on your social media channels and other people are engaging with you by liking the comments you put up or retweeting the comments you put out there or sharing it on their walls, if you've got blogs written and these blogs are being shared and these articles are being distributed all over the internet, you're going to have a lot more inbound traffic and reputation with search engines. Your search engine optimization strategy, you're just going to get more traffic and more targeted traffic. I won't get into that today talking about that, but just know that it benefits your organization in that way as well. Where do I start? Step one, simple, create a plan. Too many organizations just give their employees a task and say, okay, start using Facebook. Okay, start using Twitter. Well, what do I tweet about, or what do I say in my status updates? I don't know. Just talk about our products and services. You can't do that. You need to create a plan, and in order to create a plan, you need to do a couple of key steps in order to ensure that your plan is going to be the best possible. And again, coming back to the point before, you're going to have to adapt because you're in a learning process, and it's very important to learn from it on an ongoing basis. So you need to sit down and learn and understand your customers' motivations. In order to do this, take a piece of paper, write down all your products and services, and sit down and say, who buys these and why? What's their motivation? And I don't want to let you get away with just writing one or two answers. You need to dig deep here. You need to understand all of the motivations. So an example is, if your company sells maps, does your customers buy maps because they need them for just travel? Absolutely not. They might need them because they're doing research. They might need them because they need to understand topography of a certain area. They might need them because they're going fishing and they want to know where their boat can safely go. They may need them because they have a military exercise and you're selling to a corporate client and they're traveling overseas. You see, you need to understand all of their motivations before you can even start, because that's creating a framework for which you're going to talk about on your social media channels. It's creating something that's going to enable you to not become dull over time. You're always going to have new things to talk about. You're going to engage with different clients of different areas. You're going to benefit not just one small section of your clients or not just your core product and all your other complementary services and products are ignored. It's a complete strategy. Research your industry. 9 times out of 10, half the work is done if you sit there and research your industry. See what your industry is doing in those social media channels. See how they're addressing it. See what's working for them and what's not. It's hard to criticize yourself. You're too close to the equation. So do one of two things. Either pretend you've sold your business and moved to another city and it no longer exists and now you need those very exact services and brainstorm that in your head. Or look at others in your industry. They're not you. And look at what's working, and look at truly what's working between them and their customers. Half your solution is right there. Finally, we all know this one. Keep your friends close and enemies closer. Watch your competitors. Watch them and keep up to date with them. Don't just look at them once and say, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Every 3 months, schedule a task, pops up, look at competitors. Do it. They're doing it to you. I can bet you that your competitors are looking at you right now, and while not all of you are for-profit organizations, you may be charities, you may be government associations, you may be embassies and whatnot, you still have similar businesses, and maybe they're not competitors of yours per se, but there's a lot to learn there. And there's a lot to learn what not to do, what's not working for them, what not to copy. Very, very, very important. It's all or nothing. What I mean by all or nothing is simply this. If you start tackling social media and you send out a status update twice a month, or you start doing it daily and then you drop off the face of the earth, or a customer puts a complaint on your wall and says, I'm really having problems using your product, it's doing this, and you don't respond, what does everyone else think? Think about it in your head right now quickly. What does everyone else think? They're thinking, wow, this company must not treat their customers very well, or they're too busy, or they're, point is you can't really figure out what they're thinking. You can figure out a few possibilities, but once that seed has been set, it's going to impact you and impact your capability to earn their business in the future. They're going to have reservations. More importantly, if you're dormant on those channels, they're not going to help you close deals. And when they don't help you close deals, if your competitor has an active social media channel that is proving to the potential customers that they do have good customer service and that they do engage with their audience and that they take the time to listen to their audience, chances are they might edge you on that. They might choose your competitor over you. Do not put all your eggs in one basket. Very important. We've all done this, right? Business owners from beginning, you'll make a couple of mistakes. You'll take a few key clients on, 2 or 3 big clients, and say, yeah, this is awesome. I'm growing. This is great. And then one client's business changes, their model changes, or they close, or they hire an in-house team to do what you were previously doing for them, and then you're like, oh, no, how do I adapt to this quickly? Well, it's the same in social media. If you put all your eggs in one basket and do all your marketing through Facebook because you know it works for you, and you ignore Twitter and you ignore YouTube and you ignore all the other channels, what happens when their business model inevitably changes? What happens when the benefits are gone? You've seen a lot of the gaming companies on Facebook almost disappear because they've hidden that part of the channel. But even in, let's say, for example, Facebook gets acquired or Facebook acquires someone else and their model changes, they're very agile. They change things quickly, and it suddenly doesn't benefit you. If you were relying solely on them for all of your social media, you're going to be in trouble because you're not going to have that channel anymore. You had them all in one basket. You relied on Facebook because it works for you, and you ignored the other ones because you didn't quite take enough time to invest in it to find out how to make it work, because all these channels do work. Do you think that Twitter would still exist 3 years later, or Facebook would still exist 3 years later if they didn't work? They need a revenue model, and they need to be sustainable. So integrate your marketing efforts. Integrate your marketing efforts is very important because it's an easy way to get your clients to follow you, your leads and your clients. And the reason for this is because they're not going to necessarily proactively go home and say, I'm going to search for this guy on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, and then I'm going to follow them and add them. But if you have it there and you say, follow us on insert channel name here to get updates on insert whatever benefit I'm delivering, you're doing a call to action. More importantly, let's say it's a lead that comes into your academy and they're considering signing up and they take a sheet away. And they're not ready to make the dive yet, but they follow you on their social media channels. Well, what's going to happen is you have repeated exposure. Maybe they weren't ready then, but you're going to stay fresh in their mind for the next 6 months while they're considering it. And when they're ready to pull the trigger, guess who they're going to think of first? It's going to be you. All that from one little thing, adding it into your traditional marketing materials. And, of course, your website. Your website needs to link to your social media channels. Your social media channels need to link back to your website. It needs to be unified. And the reason for this is simple. When someone does a search on Google for whatever product or service they're looking for, they're probably going to open up 3 to 5 sites in which within 1 minute they're going to close down to 1 or 2 they're trying to decide on. If one of the 2 of these channels have interesting social media interactions, they might sway them because they might be able to prove to them through customers' testimonials, through customer interaction, that they offer a stellar service. And you might be able to prove that as well if you get the call, but you might not get the call. A website is like a resume or a cover letter, but a social media presence is more like an initial interview. It really helps a lead or customer to learn more about you and who you are and what makes you tick or your company tick. All right, down to some of the really interesting stuff and some of the more tangible hands-on exercise. What are the most popular social media channels? The most popular social media channels are Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, blogging, and LinkedIn. All of these are extremely popular. Facebook, most of you know, as I see from your voting already, but Facebook is a place for people to update their statuses, send private messages, follow brands that they like, get updates from the brands that they like, and whatnot. Twitter, bit simpler and more complex only because of the way that they do things. It's simpler to use once you know how to use it. It's a little more complicated to learn how to use it to make it work for you. But once you do, it's extremely powerful. And I'll get into that. And that is essentially what's called a microblogging site. But really all it is you can follow other people and they can follow you back. And you can send short, brief updates of 140 characters or less. And it'll be less. I'll explain that to you. YouTube, we all know YouTube. It's video marketing. We all shy away from it at one point or another. We're all camera shy. And I'm not saying everyone in this webinar today, but in general, people are camera shy, don't know what to do, don't want to make a fool of themselves, don't want to look too casual or too professional, or don't know where to get started. Very tough, but very important. In fact, YouTube is the 3rd most trafficked site in the world behind Facebook and behind Google. So very important. But more importantly, Google heavily favors YouTube video information when they're trying to determine who shows up first on search engines, because they have a lot more information about you, the traffic, your popularity, and stuff like that. Pinterest is new. It's a place where you can share images that you like in boards, and people are still trying to adapt to learn how to use it appropriately for their businesses. This is a perfect one for businesses that have things that are fun to look at, like goodies, things that taste good, or, you know, products that are gorgeous to look at, you know, cell phones or stuff like that, clothing lines and models and stuff like that. It gets a lot of attraction and interest. It doesn't necessarily work for everyone. You need to think about that one, whether or not it's going to work well for your channel. And sometimes creative thinking can make it work well for you and gain you exposure. Blogging creates credibility, shows how professional you are. It's essentially an online diary for your company or yourself if you're an individual brand. And it enables you to write about whatever you want. Usually with some planning, you'll talk about your business, your industry, some of the issues in the industry, some of the evolutions that are happening in your industry and whatnot. It really can take its own course based upon your customers' feedback and input and whatnot. So LinkedIn, well, LinkedIn we all know as the business social networking site, whereby there are 2 areas: key partnerships, hiring with resumes and whatnot, setting up strategic relationships with other companies and whatnot. It really works well for those types of things. Some other less popular social media channels include social bookmarking sites, the big ones being Dig, Delicious, and StumbleUpon. These sites are essentially, imagine your bookmarks in your browser. But these are shared online, and you share them with friends, and your friends like them, and you like them, and you follow friends, and they follow you, and whatnot. It's adding the social element to bookmarking. That's really all it is. But what is the benefit there? The benefit is Again, search engine optimization. All of these things interrelate, and all of these things help your business to gain more exposure to targeted customers. Social news site Reddit, I won't talk much about it today. It's very becoming very popular, and it's used in certain niche industries. I thought I would mention it because I know some of the viewers today have used it effectively and whatnot. I've started to use it. I don't use it as extensively as I'd like to. I find that the target audience in there is already a very technical audience and whatnot, so it works well for certain industries and not so well for others. It works well for consumer-oriented media stuff and not so well for others. One that's very often forgot that, I mean, we've gained a lot of customers from this is online forums. When you go on online forums where your customers frequently visit, you have the chance to gain a lot of reputation and sales as a result. An audio equipment manufacturer here in Canada had hired us to work on their website in the past, and basically what they did was the majority of their clientele was because of the forums and their reputation on the forums. They were known as the audio expert of their region. And the reason for that was because customers would say, what do you think about this or that? And they were like, oh, unquestionably it's that, or and they'd explain why. Well, that creates a lot of traffic because people start to trust them. People, when they go on search engines, they're not necessarily searching for your product or service or your company. They might be searching for advice on which speaker is better, and then they find that advice and they say, I'm going to go see that guy. He's good. He knows his stuff. So you got to think, what are your customers looking for, and where are they frequently visiting? All right. So let's get into Facebook. I'm going to show you guys how to tag, how to use events and page favorites, and I'm going to talk about each one of these and why they are so important. Just bear with me for a quick second. I'm just going to get Facebook up. For those of you who already have experience in this, I apologize in advance, but I do have viewers that are of various different levels of experience. So I want to make sure this is useful for all of the viewers. So this is our Facebook page, and we use this Facebook page to communicate with our fans, our clients, our leads, and have conversations with them on an ongoing basis. It's interesting because Facebook was a bit challenging to get some momentum on because we're not consumer-oriented, and Facebook does really well with consumer-oriented because a lot of people use Facebook during their casual times as well. But we made it work. We stuck with it, and we get a lot of business as a result of it. In terms of tagging, what you need to do when you go to tag, sometimes, you know, if I was sending out a message on my wall, I would say thanks to the Ottawa Chamber of, and you notice it's not actually auto-completing. Now that could be because of a couple of reasons. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But when you have enough fans, or when you have enough pages that you like, it's essentially not able to complete the autocomplete because it pre-populates. All you have to do is put the @ symbol, which is Shift-2, and type in the Ottawa Chamber, and you can hit Enter, and it'll tag them. Now, why would you tag someone, and why would you take the time to tag someone? It's very important because what happens is on their wall, this will show up, and this will show up on their channel, on their wall, and when anyone's looking at them, they'll see that Brent Mondu has commented on Ottawa Chamber of Commerce, if they are friends with Brent Mondu, of course, or Envision It Interactive and whatnot. But also, it invites the Ottawa Chamber of Commerce to comment on Brent's comment and then to share it with all of their fans, their friends. It amplifies your exposure drastically. In certain instances as well, by tagging, you know, welcome this new member to our Martial Arts Academy, or congratulations to Jill for winning the bakery's prize of the month, and showing a picture of the prize of the month. Jill and all her friends are going to thumbs up it. You just amplified your exposure by 7,000%, 70 times. You'll probably get, you know, instead of 1 or 2 people spending some time looking at it, you'll get 70. You know, it's quick, it's easy, it's effective, it's a little tool, and it works. Events. Events are very important, and I mention it because, believe it or not, a lot of organizations, when they have events coming up, they'll just post it as a wall notification, just like this. And they don't understand there's a better way to do it. You see, there's been an event feature built into Facebook for events, and when you click on that, sorry, it just froze a little bit on my end. When you click on that, you have the opportunity to create an event. And then after that, you have an opportunity to invite all your friends and family and colleagues to this event, and they can say, yes, I'm attending, or no, I'm not attending, or maybe I'm attending. But that puts a notification on their wall and tells all their friends and family whether or not they're attending, whether they click yes or no. Furthermore to that, you can encourage all of your friends and family and fans and customers and clients and partners to share your event as well. And they can then invite all of their friends and family to the event as long as you keep it as an open event. So you can quickly amplify the exposure of this, and it can move like wildfire through a social media channel quickly and easily. And in terms of page favorites, when you go to a page, if I went to the Ottawa Chamber of Commerce, and I wanted to add them to my page favorites so that they would be featured as a page favorite on my page, I just click on the down arrow right here in the right corner. And it's simply enough an option down near the bottom, add to my page favorites. Now, you're not going to see the Ottawa Chamber of Commerce in my page's favorites right now. And the reason for that is because I've already added them as a favorite, of course. But if I hadn't, I would be able to select them and then click Save. And then I'll just go back to my channel to show you where that puts it. If I scroll down here, usually it's on the right-hand side, just a bit down. So likes, right here. So you can see all the pages that we've liked, the clients, partners, associates, etc., stuff like that. So you can quickly see that. Now, a lot of companies say, "Oh, I'd never do that. My competitor might try and steal my clients." But realistically, the odds are very slim. If you have strong relationships with your clients, they know you and trust you, and they value your service, the odds are very, very slim of that occurring. And if you're in an industry where it's all about price, well, maybe you can reconsider that. That's all part of the planning phase. So in terms of the next section, it's Twitter. So in Twitter, it's a little bit more complicated to use, but I'll show you it's actually not that bad. I'm going to show that section as well right now. Let's go to Twitter here. So Twitter, here's my Twitter. And I can use the @ symbol on Twitter as well to tag someone, similar to what I just did on Facebook. And the reason for this is when someone mentions you, it tells you. So if I say on this channel, thanks to the, or at the @ symbol, Ottawa Chamber. I know theirs is Ottawa Chamber. I can check that. But the problem is because I have too many followers, the autocomplete doesn't work when it gets too long. So to verify that, I could just take that word and try going to Twitter just to make sure I did it right, and pasting that in there and saying, okay, is that really their Twitter channel name? And I wait for it to load, and it is. So I know I've done it right. So then I would just continue for hosting our webinar. And then when you're a corporate entity like Envision It Interactive, you may have multiple personalities or individuals or key stakeholders talking on your company's behalf. It's good to sign off so people know who they're talking to. If I'm talking to Envision It, it's not nearly as interesting. I don't even know who's talking or who's accountable or who. I can't build a relationship with a brand. I mean, you can, like Coca-Cola, you can build a relationship with them, but it's not nearly as interesting as knowing you're talking to someone that's in the organization, a key stakeholder. So I usually add in my name at the end to certain things. Some things I might not would be news articles that have nothing to do with me, unless I'm commenting on the news article. Hashtags. Hashtags are the pound symbol. So I'm just going to go back here so you can see that for a second. The pound symbol right here. And the hashtags is a way to tag things on Twitter. And so an example of this would be Ottawa has a very popular one. It's pound Ottawa. Toronto has the same one. Like, that's an easy one to know. But if you're not sure what's good hashtags, again, search for people in your industry. Look at the tags they regularly use. Choose industry leaders, like in mine at software. So look at Google and Microsoft in my industry. If your industry is healthcare, look at the big healthcare providers and the big drug companies and see what tags they're using. You'll learn them very, very quickly because you can make up your own too. It won't hurt, but you just won't get traffic to it. So it's important to learn the high traffic ones. Another popular one is pound FF, which is follow Friday. And this is where people would do pound FF and recommend people to follow. You know, and they can put a whole bunch of them right in here, you know, and just keep typing away, user 2, you know, each Twitter account. And you can just post that, and other people will say, okay, well, if they talk with EnvisionIt a lot and they trust what EnvisionIt's saying, they're probably going to trust the recommendations that EnvisionIt is offering. And you're not doing nothing to help yourself grow, but you're helping other organizations gain exposure through your reputation. But what goes around comes around. Companies appreciate that. It helps build relationships. It helps build trust. And if you're giving value to your followers and fans and friends, they're going to appreciate it too if you're recommending good companies, you know. Retweeting. Retweeting would simply be tweeting something that you find, you know, valuable. You think that the followers of your channel will appreciate learning about Apple versus Samsung's lawsuit. So you would click retweet, and you would confirm it with the retweet button. Now, why would you do this? Well, first of all, it's from Engadget. They're a big company. They have a lot of technology news, so it creates reputation immediately. Second of all, if you retweet something that's interesting, like Ottawa Chamber of Commerce says something and it's interesting, and you retweet it, they'll appreciate it. And it further helps with the relationship, you know. And when you post something that's interesting, chances are they're going to notice it too and potentially retweet yours as well, as they will, you know, be more used to checking in with your channel to see what you're talking about on an ongoing basis. Finally, there's lists. Lists are an interesting way for a company to gain a lot of exposure. An example of this is if I was considering entering an industry, you know, building a web application or software solution for a specific vertical market, I could create a channel, a list, and add companies to it. Companies are so tickled pink by being added to lists that they instantly follow you back 9 times out of 10. And so by creating Ottawa Wedding, what will happen is all of these companies that are added in there, the ones that are active, if you add some that are inactive, they'll never add you. Some won't add you anyhow. But if you add them and you provide value and they know your account's not spammy and it's not, you know, crap, what's going to happen is they're going to follow you back. Well, guess what? You're setting yourself up so that when you launch a product or service that targets that industry, maybe you already have that product or service, you now have fans and followers that are following you that are going to be exposed to your ongoing discussions surrounding these topics, and they're going to potentially consider using your product or service to fulfill their needs. It's that simple. All right, back to the presentation. Where are we at here? I'm at 41 minutes. I got 5 more minutes here. That's good. All right, so to the next level. Now, there's applications out there, third-party applications. Most of these are free. The first one's not. It's extremely popular. It's called Hootsuite. It helps you to search and organize all of your social media efforts and whatnot. However, if you're new to software or not very technical, you need to anticipate a learning curve and making some mistakes. Don't worry about it. I mean, there are mistakes that are really bad, like creating controversial stuff. You know, we've all heard about the Hollywood ones that recently happened, but I mean, making a mistake and doing something wrong and retweeting something you didn't want to, it's okay. You'll learn and you'll move on from there. And Hootsuite does have modest monthly costs to take advantage of all of the features that are within there that will really help you take your social media to the next level. Buffer or bufferapp.com it enables you to schedule your social media. Why would you schedule your social media? The reason you schedule your social media is because if you go online in the morning and do your research and figure out what you're doing and you plan it all out and you say, okay, I'm going to do my social media for the day in 15 minutes, which is a good idea, by the way, you would want to schedule it. You don't want it all going out at 9 a.m. People aren't on their social media at 9 a.m. It's going to be buried pages down. You want to schedule it throughout the day when your viewers are most likely to be online, and Buffer app helps you do that. It says, okay, your users are most online during these time periods, so we're going to schedule them at 10:14 a.m., noon, 2:23 p.m., 4:26 p.m., and 7:18 p.m. And so they'll spread them out for you. It'll optimize your exposure and keep you always in the eyes of your leads, clients, followers, fans, etc. Buffer app works with multiple services, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and it's free for people that don't use it a lot, or very inexpensive, like I forget the price, $5 or $10 a month to use it unlimited. So Listorious, I listed Listorious here because it helps you to find targeted followers. You could do a search for Ottawa, it'll find Ottawa Twitter users. You can do a search for real estate, it'll find you real estate users that talk about real estate on a regular basis and whatnot. It helps you to find your potential customers that are going to follow you. So, if you're running a upcoming golf charity event, you can type in golf or charity. You can get a lot of followers that way. And of course, when you get a lot of charities that follow your own charity, you gain more exposure because they're very likely to retweet or to share or to repost or to like or thumbs up. They're very likely to engage because it's of interest to them, and charities like helping each other a lot. So hands up at this point, how many people have the ability to measure any of their social media results? If you have had the ability, if you feel that you have successfully been able to measure any of your social media results, put your hand up. Okay, we've got about a half dozen people. That seems about right. I'm just going to put your hands down. It's unfortunate that most people do not know how to measure results, and it's not that they don't want to, they just don't know how. But it's extremely important to hold yourself accountable. If you're spending all this time and money paying your staff and planning these meetings and whatnot, you need to make sure that you can hold yourself accountable. There are tools that can help you do this. Buffer app, like I told you, is one of them. It'll tell you how many people clicked links that you put up. Bit.ly does two things. It creates shorter links that are easier to click and don't have the chance of getting cut off when you forward an email. But it tells you how many people clicked each of your links. So if you link to a webinar, or if you link to a discount on your baked goodies, or if you link to an upcoming promotion at a martial arts academy, or if you link to a human resources trade show, and you send it out today, and then you send it out tomorrow, and then you send it out on Friday, and you try different times, you can track how many people clicked it at each time. You know what's working or what's not. You know how many people are clicking it. Now if they're not engaging with you and you had 100 clicks and nobody contacted you, maybe there's an issue with your page. You can make a lot of decisions with that information, a lot more than just guessing and hoping. Again, compare with competitors, and often. I have a scheduled task every month that pops up. Some people don't want to do it every month. I recommend at least once a quarter. Compare with your competitors. Check out their channels. Check out how they're doing. Check out how many fans they have, how fast they've grown, and whatnot. There's a lot of tools online. You can just go to Google and say Twitter growth and hit enter, and you'll find websites that will show you growth statistics history for other Twitter users. Type in your competitor's username, and it'll show you that stats because they track it. It's all public information. It's social media public channels. And compare. Hold yourself accountable. All right. So that's it. It's question time. I'd like to take the time to thank all of you for your time today. I really wish I could have gotten into more details about a lot more. I have a lot more experience than what I was able to cover today, and I've been doing this for a number of years. If you are interested in finding out more, we do have a social media superhero program you can check out. If you feel like providing me any personal feedback, you can email me directly. When you leave this webinar today, you will be asked a questionnaire that was prepared by the Ottawa Chamber of Commerce This will go directly to the Ottawa Chamber of Commerce. I'd like for you to take 30 seconds to fill it out. It's only 4 questions or 5 questions. I'd really appreciate it, and I know that the folks at Ottawa Chamber of Commerce who are trying to put on these wonderful, informative events for you guys would also truly, really appreciate it so that they can measure if it's something that you would want to do. The last question on the webinar, it talks about other potential webinars that we could put on for you. They also would be free. We'd like to gauge whether or not you'd be interested in attending these and learning more about specifics and other things online, such as creating a blog and stuff like that. So the questions are coming in. I'm just going to have them assembled. I have a few here that have been handed to me by my team here that have been asked, so I'm going to go through a few of them now. But please feel free to keep having those questions come in, and I'm going to go through them as we go. So I'm just setting up a maximized window so I can see them all. One of the questions from Sergio was, I don't get the use or purpose behind the pound hashtag. Would you please elaborate further on it? On Twitter, that hashtag is an easy way to categorize things. Kind of like, you know, in your email you create folders and you go and you drop invoices in the finance folder, or you drop personal stuff in the personal folder, or you drop, you know, receipts in the receipt folder, stuff like that. It's kind of like that. And yeah, there's no rule to it. Anyone can create a hashtag, but there are some common ones that have been copied over and over again. Pound city name, like Pound Ottawa, or Pound Ott City. I don't know how that one came about, but I don't dictate how this goes, right? So we created one today, Pound Grow Social, for the social event. You know, someone else very, very well may have used the same hashtag years ago, you know, or days ago. There's no ownership on hashtags. So, but the thing is that it helps categorize. So on a regular basis, I look at Pound Ottawa, whether I'm looking for something that I find, you know, something to do with my son on the weekend, or something to just see what's going on in Ottawa, you know. And then some media channels, Pound OBJ for the Ottawa Business Journal, keeps me up to date on all the business stuff going on in Ottawa. So I do take a look at that on an ongoing basis. In terms of some of these other questions, how do you maintain consistency of brand in social media? It seems like the casualness of it might be easier to communicate inconsistently. It's actually kind of interesting because social media works better when it is casual. People like doing business with people that they like and trust and can relate to. And if you're always professional and you have to stay professional, don't get me wrong, but if you're always like to the T and no casualness, can't joke around and whatnot, it makes it actually harder to get your social media really successful. And we found some of our most success is by posting funny stories that happen in our industry and stuff like that. It gets people laughing, it gets people interested, it gets people engaged. Oh, this is a good one. Can I hire someone to do tweets for me? You can. It won't necessarily help you, though, because they don't know your business. Even if they're in your industry, they don't know your business. An example of this is if you hire someone to tweet about, you know, sports updates for your news station and stuff like that. You would have to hire a whole bunch of people to fill in all of the gaps after that, because you would want to talk about what's going on in Ottawa. You would want to talk about what's going on in, again, it all boils down back to the plan. So, you know, you really need to plan that out. Can you make a do-it-yourself YouTube video that actually looks professional? It's challenging to do, but not necessarily critical. I mean, a lot of the YouTube videos that are online, that's from Brad, a lot of the YouTube videos online are casual, or known as vlogs, which is a video blog. It's essentially an online diary recorded and whatnot. It's nice to have that professional touch on a few of them, but if it's going to constrain you financially and it doesn't make sense, it doesn't mean you shouldn't use the channel. You can create casual ones. You can create quick little ones about, you know, new products that came in and whatnot. And my best advice to any beginners, if they do have an Apple computer, use iMovie. It'll help you through that process really easily. It's the best advice I could give anyone that really does want to try and make it look a little more professional. It's a pretty easy software to use. So. many people are using smartphones for Twitter. Do I need to have smartphone-compatible content, or can I continue to focus on my traditional website? This depends on the business and industry that you're in. For the most part, the mobile industry is growing faster than the computer industry. By 2015, there will be more mobile devices connected to the internet than websites, than computers themselves, and so it's going to become more and more important. You can't just copy your website and put it on mobile, though. You need to think about how a user uses it. If you had all of your information available on a mobile site and you're trying to make sales on a mobile site, it's not going to work very well. It's especially critical to be on mobile for consumer-oriented businesses. Think about it. This is Ottawa, Canada's capital. It has millions of tourists every year coming to downtown Ottawa and staying in the hotels. Where do you think they go to decide which restaurant? Some of them might just walk around and pick the restaurant at that time, but a lot of them are going to go online and research and say, where do we want to go eat tonight? Well, it depends where they're at. They don't really know the neighborhood. They have an idea of what they might want to eat, but they're going to go and take a look at a couple of restaurants quickly, and guess what's in their hand? Their phone. So consumer-oriented businesses, extremely important already. What is your impression of Google+, and do you think it will be just as big as Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube? Thanks, Costin, for the question. Google+ is not yet as big as Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and it's tough to judge where it's going to be. Unfortunately, it's really hard to know who's going to be the leader long term, and that's the reason you don't put all your eggs in one basket. But one important note with Google+ is that Google does use your Google Plus as your plus ones and the plus one integration on your website when helping to calculate your search engine optimization rank. And so it becomes very, very important for you to consider that, especially when it only takes, half an hour to an hour to put in that widget on your website so that you can potentially gain the benefit from the search engine ranking. And yes, maybe it doesn't take off, and yes, maybe it doesn't become the de facto industry leader. But don't underestimate Google. They have lots of money, lots of power, lots of traffic, lots of integration with two of the top 3 websites trafficked in the world, which is Google and YouTube. So where it's going is going to be very, very interesting to see. Undoubtedly, they're going to have dozens of new products every year, and they're going to try and keep Google Plus as a strategy of all of them. Likewise, can I hire someone to help me put a plan together? You can. I guess shameless plug here. We do this on a regular basis, so I had to say it. But it's very, very important. In fact, it's often more beneficial for you to have someone that's not in your industry help you put the plan together. They need to learn about your industry. They're going to relate better to the situation. You're oftentimes too close to the situation, and it's hard to get through that little bit of planning phase where you say, well, I don't know what my customers' motivations are. As part of the one of the organizations here in town, we had a mentorship program. It was previously Oakry, now it's Ottawa Invest, and I found it one of the most invaluable things ever because someone else looking at your business that knows nothing about it can throw out some real interesting information that you would have never thought of. It's quite interesting. And so it adds a lot of value directly within there. The nature of casual comments in social media is a reality. However, is there a code of conduct of published comment, such as family birthdays, or the audience would see it as something close to be unethical? Well, casualty is of course, yes, it's standard. In terms of code of conduct, there is no formal code of conduct. I would say act accordingly. In fact, in industries such as martial arts, their comments may be a little more, they can get away with posting pictures and saying, oh yeah, look at that, and advertising someone winning a big event and whatnot, and boasting about it and saying some stuff, leaving questionable things there and whatnot. Other industries, of course, cannot. Just waiting for these questions to get organized there. Okay, so would this be a marketing, public relations, or sales responsibility within my company? Well, it's kind of a team effort. Obviously, if you're sending out notifications, some of them are going to be, our products and say, oh, buy it. Hopefully, it's less than 10% of your notifications, but it hopefully is greater than, 5%. It has to be there. It's an important element of it. In terms of public relations and sales, they both have different responsibilities. They both understand different things. They both understand different motivations. Sales are right on the floor with the customers. They know the customer's motivations for purchasing. Public relations are professionals in dealing with delivering the message as professional as possible in a politically correct manner. They should be involved as well, especially when you're touching on topics that may have some controversy. How long does it take to get started and start seeing some benefits? That ranges on a number of things. This could mean, like, I could give you any answer, but it could be, to give you a metaphor, how long is it going to take for Team X to build me a new house? Well, how many people are there? How organized are they? How much experience do they have? Are all their teams available right now, etc.? It's the same here. Have you planned? Have you organized? Are you doing it effectively? Are you doing it religiously? Are you doing the all or nothing approach? Are you doing it on a regular basis and following that plan? Are you holding yourself accountable? That answer really depends on you and on how you do it. And a number of other things. People will do it, almost perfectly and skip out one of the equations. And one of the equations most people skip out on is making sure they get their audience, including it on all their marketing materials, getting their customers and fans, actually emailing them one-on-one and saying, I'd like if you could follow me on my social media channels. Take that time to do that. It's far more effective than a newsletter that goes out and someone says, yeah, this is just a newsletter, and they're not going to read the whole thing. So very, very important. How can I measure the results, and how can I adapt? Facebook has built-in statistics. Twitter has built-in statistics that are coming. Those other tools I mentioned that you will be able to re-grab from the webinar slides that are distributed by the Ottawa Chamber of Commerce will show you a whole slew of different tools that you can use to measure the results. And from those results, you can read them and say, okay, well, an example would be is my last 30 status updates on Facebook had an average of 3,000 views. And however, one of them has a 5% click rate. So I need to figure out why. Well, this is psychology. I can't exactly figure out why that one was so much more popular, and maybe it's the time it went out, maybe it's the content, etc. But more realistically, it's probably a combination thereof. I'm going to have to do some sort of calculated guesswork at the end to determine whether or not to adapt to those results. I have to make my own interpretation. And it's often best to do this in teamwork environment. Small team of 2 or 3 people, take a look at the data, and what's your take on this? What do you think it is? One thing I found from that was that it was very, very interesting was on my website analytics, I found that one of my pages had a higher drop-off rate than all the others. Guess where I focused next? Obviously, I focused on that page, and now that drop rate is significantly less. Those analytics are critical, not just in websites, but in social media too. You need to get those analytics to understand. You need to know if you're getting results or you're just throwing money away and hoping. And if that's your approach, well, it's just as easy as going to the casino and gambling, because that's essentially what it is at that point. So what's the line between providing value and being annoying when posting things? How often should I post, and what times of day? Well, I talked a bit about that tool that will help you to calculate when you should post most. You should post most when your customer market is online. If they're international and worldwide, you should post around the clock off and on. And I don't mean 24 tweets a day and stuff like that, or 24 Facebook updates. How often you post will be dictated by your business. If you're a martial arts academy that has 6 different lines of business, you might post more often than, say, a fitness studio that trains one thing only, because you have 6 different lines of business to talk about. If you're a company that has hundreds of products, you may literally want to consider having a general channel for your company, like Microsoft, and then having a different channel for each one of your products, like Microsoft Office, etc. And they'll talk more generally on the big channel, but because they have millions of fans and because they don't want to annoy them with hundreds of notifications, Office-specific updates and whatnot are going to go through the Office channel unless it's very important and unless it's very general. They have a whole strategy in place for that. Most of the companies listening today are not that size, so they won't have that challenge. But you need to regulate yourself accordingly. And you need to adapt based upon user feedback. In your analytics, you can see how many people have followed you, how many people have stopped following you. If you see people start to unfollow you, if you're watching that statistic, which you should, you'll know, oh, I'm pressing my luck here. I'm borderline spam. I'm annoying people. And it might not be that you're posting too often. It might be you're posting too often. Or you're posting the wrong things, things that are perceived as spam. What resources are available to me to stay up to date with various social media tips? One website I read that gives me a general overview on a regular basis is Mashable. Mashable.com. It's very popular. It's a favorite of a lot of people, but it's only going to give you a high level up to date. The speed in which this industry is going is very, very fast. It's almost, I spend 10 hours a week keeping up to date on all of these things, looking at, how to improve my performance on certain channels and whatnot. It's a part-time job, and it could be as much as a full-time job, depending on how much time I wanted to spend on it. I, of course, have a team that spends more time behind the scenes on it as well, so collectively we're spending a lot more time than that. But I think what needs to be done there is you need to spend at least a couple of hours a week keeping up to date on the general stuff about social media and learning about it and actively engaging within it. How much does it cost to buy a sponsored hashtag? I do not know. I believe it's cost prohibitive for most companies. Last I looked, it was very expensive. So, and usually a sponsored hashtag has a minimum budget. Again, last I checked, was $50,000. So it's not really something that's very easy to do. And the amount of benefit gained from it, from what I've researched and from what I've talked to with biomedical experts that have tried this out, is the results were very limited. I mean, they spent a lot of money and got very little benefits from it. So that's my take on that. Unfortunately, at this time, there's still questions coming in, but I am out of time. If you have any questions specifically, want to provide me your feedback or comments, or when you leave this webinar, feel free to leave me feedback, and that will be shared with the Ottawa Chamber of Commerce. Feel free to check out our website and our social media superhero program at betterwebsites.ca/SMS, or my email address is brent@betterwebsites.ca. I'd like to thank the Ottawa Chamber of Commerce for putting on this webinar and inviting me to present at this webinar. I'd like to thank you all for your time, and I hope that I've provided you all with a lot of little gems and a lot of value for your business that you can take away and use. Start with a plan, execute that plan, and adapt. One day, one little improvement at a time, you can become leaders as well. Your competitors are doing it. You can do it as well. You need to pay attention to it because it's not going anywhere. It's only going to